Hey everybody, how's it going? I see you did not get the audio. I thought I had turned it all back up, but I guess I didn't. In any case, welcome to the Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And today, well, today is Hump Day.
Uh-oh. Mike. What day is it, Mike?
It's Hump Day.
Hump Day!
It's Hump Day.
Hump Day!
That's right, folks. Today is Hump Day. This is the day in which we attempt to begin the weekend, sometimes with success, sometimes not. But as I like to say, the fun, it's all in the trying. And well, Mike is off of working today. He's off making those dollar bills, y'all. So it's just going to be us today. And that's okay, though, because we always have a good time. We're taking your comments, which, by the way, reminds me, just so you know, if you're watching this program between 3 p.m. Pacific, at 3 p.m. Pacific or 6 p.m. Eastern, you're watching the show live, which means we're taking your comments live. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitter, we're on Rumble. Once again, we're taking your comments wherever we are live. We would love to hear from you. We would love to hear what you think about the program, what you think about our thoughts on whatever the particular topic is, whatever it might be. Trust me, let us know what you think, because it matters to us. But just know this: that you don't have to agree with us. I want to make that very clear. But just know that if you do disagree with us, we do reserve the right to mock you.
Oh wow, is that a mockingbird?
Man, is that a mockingbird? Is that a mockingbird?
That's right. Gotta love that little mockingbird, dude. Anyway, yes, we do reserve the right to mock you. Not because we want to be mean, but because it's all for entertainment value. And just so you know, it's mostly for our entertainment value. Anyway, folks, we're going to be having a good time here on the program today. But before we do, we're going to do what we always do. And we're going to start off with a quick shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start with the folks over at Hitman Industries. Hitman Industries, they sell rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you to purchase at any length. If you've purchased an AR in the last few years, there's a good chance you already have one of their barrels. Why not get another? So if you're looking into a brand new build or maybe just, rebarrel an old rifle, you got to check them out today at hitmanindustries.net. Then we've got the California Republican Assembly, working to help elect conservatives at all levels of government, from school board all the way up to President of the United States. Ronald Reagan once referred to CRA as the conscience of the Republican Party. So that means that, they're worth checking out. You know what I mean? Just go to cragop.org. That's cragop.org. If you want to be a part of California's future today, you got to join CRA. And then you've got the best in concealed carry tactical holsters that are available on the market at hogholsters.com. Just go to hogholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com, because they like helping Americans wear guns. Make sure when you go there, though, you use the discount code, The Rundown. All caps, no spaces, one word, just like it is right up there. And you're going to get a discount on us. Wouldn't that be cool? That'd be nice. You'd like a discount, right? I like discounts. Anyway. And then finally, if your weather's changing, so obviously your tactical gear is going to be changing. So if you have a group, maybe you have a shooting club, and maybe you're a purchaser for your department, whatever it may be, you need to go check out uscombatgear.com. They have all things tactical except the gun available for you there. They have competitive prices, and they specialize in group sales. They have a huge selection. They have just about everything that you could be looking for. Trust me, and the best customer service available on the market. Check them out today. That's uscombatgear.com. And finally, I want to throw this in there. So I've got an event that's going to be coming up, and I have a film. It's a feature-length film that we did, and I'm going to be honest with you. This is what's called a low-budget, no-budget film. And no doubt about it, it is definitely a low-budget, no-budget film. But here's the thing that I want to share with you about it. It's a feature-length film. I am the star of the film, or at least I had the lead role. Let's put it that. There's a lot of really, really good talent. Anyway, it's going to be there's a virtual showing of the film that's going to be taking place on the 13th. Would love for you guys to go and check it out and vote on it. Because if you go there and you vote on it and we're one of the top vote getters, then we wind up going to Shockfest, which will be taking place in Las Vegas in November. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to play the trailer for you right now so you can get an idea what the what this flick is about. And you might notice a common theme with our show.
So, you killed 3 strangers. Instead of 1 man, I asked.
I'm Marty Chance.
I'm at a place in my life where I'm kind of particular about who I kill. Abusers of women and children. Other killers. Double-crossing gangsters. Some clowns. Certain politicians. Particular criminals. General assholes. Mimes. Bigots. Terrorists. Anyone in particular who's trying to kill me. Perverts, which by the way does include pedophiles.
See, honey, I would have did you first, but you are so not my type.
This is where we're gonna need the graphics.
Just so you know, I am not an alcoholic. I'm a drunk. Alcoholics, they go to all the damn meetings.
So what happened to you the other day anyway?
I quit.
Didn't I mention it pays $250 grand?
Show me the money. That money is gonna get me awfully close to retirement.
It says here that you are an exterminator?
Yeah.
Insects?
That's
Insects?
right. Yeah, let's go with that.
For those of you who are wondering about the theme, you might notice there's a reason why it's called Confessions of an Alcoholic Hitman. And needless to say, the character Marty Chance consumes a significant amount of alcohol during this movie. Suffice it to say, there wasn't any alcohol in those drinks that I was drinking. But anyway, folks, if you could help me out, go check it out. It's a fun film. It really is. Like I said, it's low budget, no budget. So if you're looking for an Oscar award-winning winner, yeah, no. But it's a fun film with a lot of really, really good fun moments, and it would encourage you to go check it out. And make sure you vote. Make sure you vote. Let me say it again. Make sure you vote for it. And share it with your friends. Let them know, hey, your buddy Craig's going to be in this flick. Check it out. Not saying, just saying. Help a brother out. All right, let's go ahead and let's get into today's program. And we're going to start off with this first story here. And, people are always looking to, whenever someone has done something good or been somewhere good, there's always people who are going to try and tear them down. And needless to say, with the passage of Charlie Kirk, that is no different. Well, in this particular case, Candace Owens, who is a conservative commentator, and I use the word conservative in quotes because I got my issues with Candace. Anyway, some of you may like her, you guys may like her, I don't know. But she has released some text messages, which has raised questions about whether or not there was a rift between Charlie Kirk and the pro-Israel movement. And I want to go ahead and share this with you real quick. It says here, no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause, said Charlie Kirk in a message leaked by Candace Owens. Conservative commentator Candace Owens leaked text messages suggesting that Charlie Kirk was unhappy with the pro-Israel cause in the days leading up to his death, according to the Daily Mail on Wednesday. Allegedly sent to a group chat, Kirk's message stated that his organization, Turning Point USA, had lost Jewish donor after Kirk refused to disinvite controversial right-wing pundit Tucker Carlson from the event. Quote, just lost another huge Jewish donor, $2 million a year because we won't cancel Tucker. We won't cancel Tucker. One of the messages read. quote, Jewish donors play into all the stereotypes. Carlson has a history of spreading anti-Israel ideas, notably at the memorial held for Kirk after he was assassinated in early September. Of spreading anti-Israel. Okay, I don't know where this comes from. Anyway, Carlson publicly speculated that a bunch of guys sitting around eating hummus wanted to silence Charlie Kirk. Oh, Carlson. I'm sorry, that's Carlson, not Kirk. Okay, wanted to silence Kirk, stating that he could imagine one of the alleged hummus eating guys saying, "I've got an idea. Why don't we just kill him and shut him up?" Kirk concluded that the series of texts by saying, "I cannot and will not be bullied like this," elaborating that the situation left him no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause. Now, I want to go ahead and read some of these texts to you. And I just realized this one here, I got it just a little too big. Okay. So here's the first of the text. So here's the first part of the text message. It says here, just lost another huge Jewish donor, $2 million a year. Because we won't cancel Tucker. I'm thinking of inviting Candace. Someone else said, or maybe he said, ugh. It says, Charlie Kirk, Jewish donors play into all the stereotypes. I cannot and will not be bullied like this. Leave me no choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause, right? So in other words, he's saying here that, yeah, I don't know, I guess I really don't have a choice but to leave the pro-Israel cause. Or really what he's doing, because this is actually a private group text, right? So these are private messages between individuals, and they're trying to have this, talk about this particular issue. Now, what I get is this, and this is something that I have seen. First of all, let's just be real. Tucker Carlson there's a difference between Charlie Kirk and Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson has verbally and openly and kind of hyperbolically gone after the Jewish community when it comes to some of this, when it comes to some of their positions, when it comes to the war in Gaza, when it comes to a number of different things. He clearly has come out, by the way, as has Candace Owens, and been very, very critical of Israel. And I think many in the Jewish community are critical of him and critical of Candace Owens for that very reason. I think they are rightfully so. Charlie Kirk is not included among them. Charlie Kirk has been a steadfast supporter of Israel. One of the challenges, and I was listening to Matt Walsh talk about this earlier today, and he's talking about how maybe it's time if people, because right now, and Matt Walsh kind of noted this, right now, support for Israel is probably significantly lower. Not probably, it is significantly lower than it was at one time. When I say at one time, I mean during this whole war in Gaza, there was a huge amount of support, and now it's really to the point where not a significant majority, but not a majority, but at the very least, a significant minority at the very least of folks, even on the right, are really questioning Israel, at least not in support of Israel, having issues with Israel. And, Matt Walsh was talking about it's important to kind of take a look at, well, when you lose that much support that fast for people who are normally natural allies, maybe you need to take a look at how, what's going on. And I think one of the big things in this particular case has to do with the fact that there are people out there who are like, look, if you criticize Israel at all, in other words, if you're not 100% in the Israel camp on every single thing, then one of the first things that they will do is they will call you. There are people within the pro-Israel movement. I'm not saying it's all of them. I'm not saying it's the majority, but I will say this: they are vocal, and they will be the first ones to accuse you of being anti-Semitic. In particular, if you don't criticize the people that they criticize, if you don't, and. I say this to those of you who are supporters of Israel because I consider myself to be a supporter of Israel. I consider myself to support the work and the things that they've been doing in the war in Gaza and how they've prosecuted that war. But I also know that when you go after your allies and people who are your natural allies because they are dared in this case. I mean, here you have Mr. Open Dialogue, right? That's who Charlie Kirk is. Charlie Kirk is Mr. Open Dialogue. I mean, he has some of the most radical leftists, right? He sits and he talks with them and he dialogues with them. This is a guy who has been a longtime friend of his. This is a guy who he's known for a while, who he has openly disagreed with on the issue of Israel. And you're going to tell him, well, you can't be a part. We're not going to give you money for America Fest if you're going to invite that guy. No, that's the sort of guy that needs to be invited. And by the way, you need to be having conversations with him about Israel, because that's the only way in which you debunk some of the really foul things that he says, is you get him on stage and you have that conversation with him, right? You can do it in love, right? But, you got to be careful with some. So anyway, American Crossfire just chimed in and is noting. He says, American Crossfire says, I think you need to be very careful taking group text out of context. If you don't know the full backstory, it's difficult to get the meaning behind all of his text. I think I hear what you're saying, and I don't lean on just that. What I lean on is as I said before, I really do honestly believe that this was an issue of, there are some people who are so single issue, and I've seen this in a number of movements, including whether it's the pro-life movement, whether it's the Second Amendment movement, but they are so single issue, and they are so passionate about that issue, that if you're not 100% all in and hate all the people that they hate, that's what they mean by 100%, meaning the people in that movement can do no wrong, then there are a lot of people out there that, they'll give you a hard time. Excuse me. They'll give you a hard time. They'll pull. In this case, you're talking about someone who's pulling $2 million to somebody who is doing a better job of getting young people to support Israel, in particular in the prosecution in the war in Gaza, than anybody else. But because he won't disinvite Tucker Carlson, you're going to pull $2 million a year from him. I want you to think about that. You've done more to hurt your cause by doing that than you have anything. And that's where I think Tucker Carlson is coming from. That's where I think his frustration is coming from. And if that's going to be the bulk of the movement, then his attitude, well, maybe we need to reevaluate the relationship of TPUSA in that movement. Now, I would not have gone that far. I would not have said that. I would have made it very clear that there are some of these donors who are like that. And I would encourage my other Jewish donors, the people who understand, in this case, if I'm Charlie Kirk, who I am and what my organization is about, to talk to them and set them straight. Look, if you're looking for somebody who's always going to be with you, always going to be down on 100% of things, and you think you're going to bully me into doing this, and that's the real thing. Because here's the thing. There are people that we agree with that are bullies. You know them. You know who they are. I don't even need to say their names. You know they're bullies. And I will tell you right now, and I have mad respect for Charlie Kirk on this one, because like him, I hate bullies. No, you're not going to, because as soon as you start developing a reputation of giving in to bullies, then they think they've won. These are the people at your church. These are the people that, the wealthy guy at the church who gives a lot, who probably, built the basketball courts and refurnished the sanctuary. And they think that because they've done that they can dictate to you or to the pastor what's preached on Sundays or who should be on the deacon board and stuff like that. They think they run the church, and they don't. You give because you believe. That's it. If you give to TPUSA, you give because you believe in the work of TPUSA. If you don't believe in the work of TPUSA, then don't give anymore. But don't think that your donation means you get to run things. If I had a hat on, I would take it off to Charlie Kirk for this. It's got nothing to do with Israel. It's got nothing to do with the Jews. It's got nothing to do with that. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, Charlie Kirk. All you have to do is go and Google Charlie Kirk in Israel, and you will find hours of support that he has had for Israel. Israel existing as a state. Israel in the prosecution of the war in Gaza. There are few public figures that have been as pro-Israel as him. Does that mean that he is without his critiques, in particular of the Israeli government? Because guess what? Nobody's perfect. But he's always kind of called it like he calls them like he sees them. And and he is not afraid to take on critics of Israel, put them on stage, and give them an opportunity to defend their position. I will tell you right now, I'll put Charlie Kirk up against Tucker Carlson in a debate any day. Because Tucker Carlson, his tricks, his verbal sleights of hand, right? His deflections are obvious, to someone like Charlie, right? Some folks aren't that good at it. Some folks aren't as good at recognizing it and overcoming it. But Charlie Kirk, I'm sure he has absolutely zero problem having such discussions with our good friend, Mr. Tucker Carlson. And by the way, that doesn't mean that Tucker Carlson's wrong on everything. He's not. I just happen to disagree with him on this one. I do, and as does Charlie. But anyway, so I just wanted to clarify that for those of you out there who think that, oh, he's turned his back on Israel. No, he hasn't. He's turned his back on the Israel movement. No, he had a fair criticism that he voiced among friends. Now, it's sad that those friends, well, one of the so-called friends, Candace Owens, decided to make that conversation public. I think that was wrong of her. But then again, Candace Owens is about being in the spotlight. That's all she really cares about. She's not interested in actually, and I'm not going to say she's never made good arguments. I'm not going to say she's never been on the right side of arguments. I'm going to say that when given the option between doing what is right and being out there and being popular, Candace Owens will side with being popular because that's who Candace Owens is. Agree with me, disagree with me. I really don't care. Anyway, moving right along. Obama covered up Biden's Ukraine connection. How did we know? Well, first of all, we all knew that this was the case. We all knew that he was connected. But now, according to this report that has come out from the folks over at Breitbart, we now see that there's more going on than meets the eye. Says here, declassified docs, Obama administration withheld reports critical of Biden's Ukraine visit at the VP's office request. The Obama administration withheld reports revealing Ukrainian officials questioned the legitimate purpose of Vice President Joe Biden's 2015 visit to Ukraine as questions swirl regarding his corrupt business dealings in Ukraine. Newly classified documents show. According to documents declassified Monday by CIA Director John Ratcliffe, Ukrainian administration officials believe not only that Biden's December 2015 official government visit to Ukraine served no compelling government purpose, but that Biden was being hypocritical in professing to target corruption within the Ukrainian government. The documents also reveal that the report, which met standards of reporting as they contained intelligence valuable to policymakers, was withheld after a request by Biden's office. Withholding a document in defiance of normal procedures is, quote, extremely rare and unusual, according to a senior CIA official, raising questions about the politicization of intelligence in the Obama administration, as well as who may have been involved. The report makes clear that Ukrainian officials mused about the connection between Biden's trip and the alleged corruption in the country. Quote, after the visit, these officials assessed that the Vice President of the United States had come to Kiev almost exclusively to give a generic public speech and had no intention of discussing substantive matters with Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko or other officials within the Ukrainian government, according to a declassified report. Now, we all know what dude was up to, right? We all know that he was there influence peddling. We all know that. And the Obama administration covered it up. Please let me say that again. The Obama administration covered it up. Now, the question I have is, and if I read further in the story, the question is, was his son with him? Raises an interesting question, right? Was his son with him? Was what's his name? Was Hunter with him on the trip? I'll bet you dollars to donuts that he was. I'll bet you dollars to donuts that the 10% for the big guy was in part helping to basically compensate him for this level of access, for him going and being there. Once again, the Obama administration covered it up. These folks, let's just be clear, folks, they are liars. And I don't know if anything criminal is going to come out of any of this. I don't know if it constitutes or if it equates to a criminal offense. But what I do know is this. I do know that the American public needs to see this. They need to hear this. And you're probably, I'll bet you anything, you're unlikely to hear any of this from the mainstream media. You'll hear it at Fox. You'll hear it from the Washington Free Beacon. You'll hear it at the Washington Times or at the New York Post. But you won't hear it at the New York Times. You won't hear it at the LA Times. You won't hear it on MSNBC. You won't hear it on CNN, ABC, CBS, because the very same people who are engaged in covering it up there, they're the same people who are covering it up, who are still going to be working in the next Democrat administration. They're the same ones who are working in the media right now. And they're not interested in you knowing the truth. That may be hard for you to hear, but they're not. If you're liberal and you're watching this, I know it's likely hard for you to hear this, but it's the truth. It is the God's honest truth, and they keep showing it in their actions. I want you to think about all the things that they lied about. Think about all the things that they covered up. They didn't just cover up this, right? They covered up the big guy. They covered up the Hunter Biden laptop, right? They've covered up information on COVID that they knew that COVID had come from a lab leak. They covered up the fact that they just made up 6 feet, right? All of these things they've made up. We know they've made up. All of these things we know that they've lied about. The number of times they had to redo the numbers got redone. In other words, they give these big, huge job numbers in order to make it look like Biden's creating all these jobs. And then they quietly later, cut the numbers down to a third. That's what they've been doing. They've been lying. Not saying, just saying the truth is the truth is the truth. All right. Moving right along, let's talk about California politics since it's just me. And this one I think is an important one largely because, I'm familiar with Katie Porter. Most of you have probably never heard of Katie Porter because she is a lefty. But Katie Porter has been how do I want to put this? She's a big mouth. She really is. She is just. There's no other way to put it than the fact that she is. God, I'm trying to think of a better word. Yeah, big mouth. I can't think of any other way to put it other than the fact that she is not a very, very nice human being, right? She is a flat out leftist, left wing liberal who has never really, like many Democrats, has never really had to defend her position on issues, right? You never really heard her have to defend. She never really have because the media never really asks them any serious questions. Well, in this particular case, she was asked basically a softball question by a reporter. And check out how she just literally, just flat out, just melts down, just totally melted down.
What do you say to the 40% of California voters who you'll need in order to win, who voted for Trump?
How would I need them in order to win, man?
Well, unless you think you're going to get 60% of the vote. You think you'll get 60%. Everybody who did not vote for Trump will vote for you. That's what you're saying.
In a general election, yes. If it is me versus a Republican, I think that I will win the people who did not vote for Trump.
What if it's you versus another Democrat?
I don't intend that to be the case.
So how do you not intend that to be the case? Are you going to ask them not to run?
No, I'm saying I'm going to build the support. I have the support already in terms of name recognition. And so I'm going to do the very best I can to make sure that we get through this primary in a really strong position. But let me be clear with you. I represented Orange County. I represented a purple area. I have stood on my own 2 feet and won Republican votes before. That's not something every candidate in this race can say. If you're from a deep blue area, if you're from LA or you're from Oakland, you don't have an experience.
But you just said you don't need those Trump voters.
Well, you asked me if I needed them to win.
So you don't think
I feel like this is unnecessarily argumentative. What is your question?
The question is the same thing I asked everybody, that this is being called the empowering voters to stop Trump's power grab. Every other candidate has answered this question. This is not
argumentative. And I said I support it.
So, and the question is, what do you say to the 40% of voters who voted for Trump?
Oh, I'm happy to say that. It's the do you need them to win part that I don't understand. I'm happy to answer the question as you have it written, and I'll answer it.
And we've also asked the other candidates, do you think you need any of those 40% of California voters to win? And you're saying, no, you don't.
No, I'm saying I'm going to try to win every vote I can. And what I'm saying to you is that...
Well, to those voters, okay, so you...
I don't want to keep doing this. I'm going to call it. Okay. Thank you.
You're not going to do the interview with us?
Nope, not like this. I'm not. Not with 7 follow-ups to every single question you ask.
Every other candidate has answered our follow-ups.
I don't care. I want to have a pleasant, positive conversation in which you ask me about every issue on this list. And if every question you're going to make up a follow-up question, then we're never going to get there.
Ms.
And
Porter,
we're just going to circle around.
I am an investigative
I have never had to do
reporter.
this before, ever.
You've never had to have a conversation with
to end
a
an
reporter?
interview.
Okay, but every other candidate has done this.
What part of, I'm me, I'm running for governor because I'm a leader. So I am going to make...
So you're not going to answer questions from reporters? Okay, why don't we go through? I will continue to ask follow-up questions because that's my job as a journalist, but I will go through and ask these, and if you don't want to answer, you don't want to answer. So nearly every legislative...
I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you, and I don't want this all on camera.
I don't want to have an unhappy experience with you either. I would love to continue to ask these questions so that we can show our viewers what every candidate feels about every one of these issues that they care about. And redistricting is a massive issue. We're going to do an entire story just.
So she's basically asking, it's kind of, first of all, it's kind of a simple question. California has a top 2 primary, meaning the top 2 candidates, regardless of party, go on to the general election. And so it's not unprecedented in California to have 2 Democrats go to the general, which means that someone is going to have to reach out to and go after those people who voted for Donald Trump or likely didn't vote for the people on the right. And a lot of those people, 40% of them, over 40% voted for Donald Trump. And all she's saying is, there's this redistricting thing going on here, and you support it, and it undermines, they support Donald Trump. What are you going to say to them? And she's like, well, I don't need them to win. Well, you may. You very well may. Now, if it's you against a Republican, which I think I think this particular time is going to wind up being her against a Republican, if not 2 Republicans. But that's not an unreasonable question. There's nothing unreasonable, and it's not a hard answer. I'm going to do whatever I can do. I'm going to let people know, look, I'm not a Republican governor. I'm not a Democratic governor. I'm governor of the state of California, and I'm going to fight for all Californians, regardless of their political affiliation, regardless of whether they voted for Donald Trump or not. Canned answer. Most of us aren't going to believe it, but it's an answer that gets you out of trouble. One that doesn't get you to the point where you're saying, well, I don't need them to win. So, okay, so you're saying screw 40% of the state of California, 40% of the voters of California. I got a majority. And it lacks just the fundamental understanding of how this election works. Because once again, she could very well need to win Republican votes against another Democrat. And so she ends it. I honestly believe this could wind up being the death nail of her campaign. Not because I believe Democrats care, but because I believe donors care. And when you melt down like that in such spectacular fashion, I mean, here's the thing. I am quite sure this is nothing new for her in terms of how she behaves. But like most Democrats, and this is the real issue with this, is that most Democrats in the state of California don't get asked real questions. They don't get challenged on their assumptions. It is assumed that if a Democrat says it, it is so. That's the way the California media works. It is. I hate to say this, but it is. There is not there. There are some legitimate folks that out there in California media, but the thing is, the Democrat politicians, don't talk to those real people. They don't talk to people in media. They talk to their propagandist friends, people who are willing to propagate their propaganda. Those are the only people that they sit down with. Those are the only people that they interview with, because they don't want to look bad. They don't want to have to actually answer questions. And that's, by the way, this is why, you want to know why Kamala Harris was so bad on the campaign trail? This is why. Because she's never had to answer any real questions while she was attorney general here in the state of California, while she was a district attorney, because they never really asked her serious questions, never really challenged her. It's the reason why Gavin Newsom, when he goes out, in particular, when he goes out to conservative media, he looks like a complete idiot. Or he's so easily, when Charlie Kirk had him on, I won't say he looks like a complete idiot, because I'm sorry, Sean Hannity did a horrible job of interviewing him. I thought the guy on what is his name? Another guy who interviewed him. But the only person who's really done a good job of really having a conversation and putting him on the spot, putting Newsom on the spot, is Charlie Kirk. But in most cases, when really challenged, they fold like cheap suits because they don't have the capability of being able to compete. They don't have to compete in the world of ideas because they've never had to. There you go. That's what it is. They've never really had to compete in the world of ideas. They never really had to defend why they believe what they believe. All right, folks, that brings us now to our next story. And I specifically wanted to pick this one because, well, it's a Florida man story, and I thought Mike was going to be able to be here, but he's not. So, oh well, let's talk about this one. So, a Florida man was charged with intentionally setting the Pacific Palisades fire. That's the big fire that burnt up a bunch of Southern California and Los Angeles. It says here, Florida authorities announced Wednesday that they have arrested and charged a Florida man with maliciously starting the deadly Palisades fire, one of the most destructive blazes in Los Angeles history. Richard Rinderknick, anyway, 29, is charged with the destruction of property by means of fire, according to a release from the U.S. Attorney's Office in Los Angeles, which is prosecuting him. Right after allegedly igniting the inferno early New Year's Day, Rinderknick, quote, listened to a rap song which has a music video that includes things being lit on fire, the U.S. Attorney's Office said. This gentleman listened to the song repeatedly in the days prior, the office said. This gentleman, who previously lived in Pacific Palisades, California, was arrested on Tuesday in Florida. The Melbourne resident appeared in Wednesday before a federal court judge in Orlando, Florida, and was ordered temporarily detained without bail, pending another court hearing there on Thursday. The Palisades fire, in early January, burned thousands of homes, killed 12 people as flames spread rapidly in heavy winds up to 100 miles with murder of some kind. It's just a matter of figuring out what degree. and a motive has not been determined yet. But the reason why this story is significant, other than the fact that it is a Florida man story, is that, well, let's just say the dude's name is not climate change, which, they repeatedly have accused the Pacific Palisades fire of being as a result of climate change. Well, you and I now know that is not the truth. You know that, I know that, and now the rest of the folks now know that. So, anyway. All right, here we go. All right, now, folks, that now brings us to our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com. Use the discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces. Get your Hog Holster today. This first one here, okay, there's a few of them here that I want to share with you. This first one here, keep in mind that Donald Trump, I mean, it's interesting. This is CNN pointing this out, that basically Donald Trump is as popular now as he was when he got elected. And the number one thing that comes out of this whole thing is, Donald Trump is who we thought he was.
Trump. You go back to October of 2024, 44% of the American public viewed him favorably. Now, despite everything, look at this, 43%, which is well within the margin of error of that 44%. And here's the thing to keep in mind. This was good enough to get Trump reelected back in 2024. And Donald Trump is basically at the same point here right now, which I think would surprise a lot of folks, especially a lot of folks on the left who very much disagree with a lot of what Donald Trump has done.
But what do you see is underneath that and driving that? Why is he basically the same?
Okay, to quote the esteemed caller Dennis Green, the former head coach in the National Football League, Donald Trump is who the voters thought he was. What are we talking about here? Well, is Trump doing what he promised in the 2024 campaign? Yes, 52%. The majority of Americans say that Donald Trump is doing what he promised compared to 48% who said no. So what essentially is going on here is the voters expected all of this from Donald Trump. The majority did, and that is why his favorable rating, simply put, has not really moved all that much compared to where it was a year ago. Trump is basically doing what the American people thought that he was going to do. Indeed, if you look at the numbers, Trump has basically the steadiest favorable rating this much through a presidency of any president on record, and it's basically where he was a year ago, good enough to get him reelected.
And I think that's an important point. He's doing what he said he was going to do, and the voters recognize that he's doing what he said he was going to do. The people who liked him before, the people who like him now. The people who hated him before, the people who hated him are the people who hate him now. For all these people out there who are like losing their minds and they're like, is this what you elected him for? The reality is, clearly, according to polling numbers, yes, this is exactly why he was elected. Just saying. And, it's kind of bad because, here's the thing. What a lot of people don't realize is Donald Trump was not the first MAGA president. He's not the first MAGA person to run for president. In fact, the first MAGA person comes from a very, well, let's just say, you may not necessarily know it or believe it, but the phrase was not invented by Mr. Trump.
I believe that together we can make America great again. To secure a better future for your children and your grandchildren, and to make America great again.
I want to attack these problems and make America great again.
It's time for another comeback. Time to make America great again.
If you're wondering, for those of you who are just listening, I'm sure if you were around when I was around, you know exactly who that was. That was former President Bill Clinton. Is that some fun stuff or what? Hey, Patrick, the gun foodie has tuned in. He's tuning in. Firestarter. Interesting. I voted for this. Yes, he's pointing out that he voted for this. Oh, no, that was American Crossfire who pointed out that they voted for this. Yes, you did. Now, this next one here, and this is a little bit follow-up from the USAID, and I thought this was a very, very interesting observation by a gentleman who, well, let's just say is no stranger to this program.
An interesting phenomenon is taking place. We have certain politicians that are having a really hard time making their fundraising goals for the first time ever. I wonder if it has anything to do with the fact that a whole bunch of left-wing NGOs and Planned Parenthood stopped receiving hundreds of millions of dollars annually from the taxpayers. Yeah, because it turns out that certain politicians, rather than asking for your money, would take it in the form of taxation and then give it to their ideological allies within the NGO and abortion industry, and then get a bunch of campaign contributions in return. I guess it was like a finder's fee. Or what's the other word for that? Embezzlement. Yeah. They're finding out now that it's much difficult when people have to voluntarily give you money instead of you just stealing it from them through taxation.
Yeah. Kind of makes a good point. Makes an excellent point, because a lot of that money that was going to the people that run these NGOs, that support these NGOs, a lot of that money, USAID money, it ain't coming back to them in campaign contributions anymore. Anyway, folks, that's going to be it for today's program. But before we go, we're going to give one more quick shout out to our sponsors. We got Hitman Industries rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you to purchase at any length at hitmanindustries.net. We got the California Republican Assembly, the conscience of the Republican Party. Check them out at cragop.org. We've got the best in concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market at hogholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com, because they're helping Americans wear guns. And then finally, we've got the place where you can find all things tactical except the gun. And that would be uscombatgear.com. All right, folks, now that's going to be it for today's program. We very much appreciate you tuning in. We appreciate you liking and sharing the program and encouraging your friends to do the same. We'll be back tomorrow on Throat Punch Thursday. Till then, y'all have fun, stay safe, and we will see you mañana.